I feel like in the last 5 to 7 years, a new gatekeeper in hip-hop and music and culture around media in general has emerged. And it is thriving right now. And that's the algorithm. My name's Sean, Lonegevity with Bringing Down the Band and the New Old Heads podcast, and this is my Unpacked series where I typically go deeper on New Old Head segments. Today I am kind of adjacently, but there's another video that I'm going to watch. So real briefly, on the New Old Heads on Tuesday on episode 486, I brought up the idea that, I was in class with a student recently, and I forget what we were talking about, but Black Milk came up. And I'm a big Black Milk fan. He's one of my favorite producers. He's probably in my top 5. And I went to his Bandcamp page and I realized that he had dropped an album 10 days ago. And I had no clue that he had dropped an album 10 days ago. And if you know me at all, and you know what I do on this platform and the playlisting that I've been doing for a long time, or check the community posts, or the fact that I'm on a hip hop podcast for the last 10 years where we talk about music and stuff, it was kind of befuddling to me that somebody who lives in the space of sharing music to other people so they don't miss it, missed an entire album, right? So I bought the album immediately, probably because I felt bad, but it brought up this question that actually me and my student were talking about, what is the solution? Is there going to be a solution to this? And does this mean that we need like a resurgence of the blog era? And what does that even look like? We talked about this again on episode 486 of the New Old Heads, but another video dropped that I actually want to watch because, sure, go check out the New Old Heads. Check me talk my shit. Sure. But No Labels Necessary dropped a video called Instagram Changed the Music Industry and Nobody Noticed. And in this particular video, it's not intentionally, it's kind of a response to our video, which is interesting because that hasn't even came out yet. And so I kind of want to watch this video and kind of highlight some of the things that this gentleman's talking about because I think it's actually extremely important.
Creator or an aggregator on Instagram, there's a big change coming this week that you should really know about. Now, about 2 years ago, we announced that we're going to try to shift more reach from aggregators and people who repost other people's content to the original content creators. And the way this works is we try to take a look at everything you post over a month. And if most of what you posted is content from other accounts, we make it so that your account's content is no longer recommended to people who do not follow you.
So this is interesting because this actually doesn't help. This doesn't actually help. I think on the grand surface of it seems like it makes sense. Sure, let's make it so every single individual content creator is responsible for sharing their own content on their own channel. Let's direct all of this information just from one, everything that I do is only going to come out of my channel. People come to me to check out my stuff. That's great, right? But I think this diminishes sometimes the importance of an aggregator, sometimes the importance of a blogger, sometimes the importance of a lot of the stuff that I've spent the last kind of 15, 16 years doing, which is amplification for people that don't necessarily have the time and or resources to amplify it on a level. I think there's still a very important piece for people to exist simply for aggregating, simply for pushing things out there. And I feel like this potentially could help, but I don't see how in this situation it helps the original content person. To me, this just hurts the aggregator. It hurts the aggregator, makes them not push stuff out there, but then the algorithms are still very much a For You based. So there's nothing within the algorithm that's going to push people to those people's pages. You following me? So the aggregators, even though even as somebody who has aggregated, again, I'm a blogger. That's what bloggers are. They're aggregators to some degree. I mean, historically, I guess I haven't blogged since 2017, so it's been a long time. But there is a role. There's a reason why those things exist. And the reason why those things exist is because we want to highlight the things that we think are really cool. And we want to put shine on the people and the things that are doing things in a really great way and put them in front of more eyes because we feel like it's necessary. To me, on the surface, unless this is part of a multi-tiered system, doesn't do anything but hurt. In a way, it is again a move that is more consumer focused than creator focused. This does not help the creator. This helps the consumer.
But until now, we've only looked at the reels you've posted over the last month. So we're trying to give everyone a bit of a heads up here, but over the next month, we're going to start looking at your photos and your carousels as well. So if most of what you post to Instagram is someone else's content, your account is no longer going to be recommendable. That means...
How does that work for somebody like me who's a part of multiple brands? How does that work for me that posts stuff for my own music, that also posts stuff for a podcast I'm a part of, also these videos that I do as well, also the school that I teach at? How does that work? It doesn't.
That we're no longer going to show your posts to people who don't follow your account proactively.
I don't think people realize how big this update actually is, because for the last 10 years, the internet has heavily rewarded repost culture. We saw music pages explode, reaction channels exploded, clip pages exploded. I will argue that the whole realm of virality was built off of the backs of repost culture. And entire music careers were built off of these distribution hacks. But I think the internet is changing again. And honestly, I think this next era is about to completely redefine how artists are marketing themselves online. Let me explain.
Okay.
But before I do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because hey, if the algorithm is going to change every 6 months, then we might as well.
Yo, those numbers right there are actually wild. And what I mean by this is the fact that they have 44% of people that watch our subscribers is crazy high. That is super high. I think the new old heads is like 80-20, 85-15. Hey, kudos.
I'll figure it out together. Now let's get back into the video. I think to really understand what's happening now, you have to understand what the internet used to reward. I mean, some of y'all were there. The early internet was chaotic. We had blogs, we had Tumblr, we had DatPiff, WorldStar, SoundCloud, meme pages, repost accounts. Everything felt fragmented, but at the same time, creatively alive. And because distribution became easier, artists for the first time in a long time didn't have to fit into some type of mainstream mold anymore. Those early internet...
Yeah, the blogs, right? So it's the blogs is what he's talking about. For example, me as a hip hop consumer, somebody who ran a hip hop blog bringing down the band, we shared a very particular type of content. Two Dope Boys would share a very particular type of content. Complex, Not Right, OK Player, Ill Roots, wherever you went to, Rapamello, wherever you went to was a different particular type of silo. And you could go to each one of these sites and you could check, and sometimes there'd be overlaps, but each place had their own particular taste of stuff that they would share. And you go to the aggregators, who is looking out for all this stuff in that particular type of way, and it helped you get hip. And if you are a particular niche artist, which I was, I knew which blogs and everything else that I would push to, you know, and I'd be like, I would share my music to these people because I was like, I feel like I fit with them, you know. Shouts to Two Dope Boys who, whoa, Mike just died on me. What the fuck? So shouts to Two Dope Boys and Shake, who shared my music a couple times, got premiered by OK Player a couple times. Mass Appeal, back when they were a blog, they premiered Pete Sake and My's album back in 2017, I believe. DJ Booth did the same thing. So like there would be specific things that I would target from I'd be like, my audience is here, and I can go to these people who can help amplify me, and kind of like stripped the paywall out of it in a particular type of way. Now, some of them were still pay to play, but typically most of these sites made money on ads and, you know, backdoor money. But anyways.
Artists realized that I could build my whole world online. And honestly, this is why so many artists romanticize eras of music like the blog era.
Remember the blog era. That's all you need to do this week is remember the blog era. Early internet, everybody was still good enough, niggas still wanted to be themselves enough, have their own movement, have their own expression, and nobody was like each other, and everybody had a place for them to be found. That's why niggas had fans, because they were so sharp in their signal and so unique in their signal that everybody had their own world. Like, were you like Maybach Music? Were you Take Care Drake? Were you Odd Future? Were you Travis Porter? Were you The Weeknd? Were you Frank Ocean? Were you Jerkin' Is a Habit? Were you New Boys? Were you Lil B? Like, there was something for everybody, and none of them were trying to be like each other. And if you remember that time, just go to that music, like, and remember that part of you that, like, I don't want to be like none of these niggas. I'm going to show y'all how to be like this, and I'm going to be the only one of this.
So I think what she's saying is important because it points to something deeper. Back then, artists felt culturally distinct from each other. Odd Future felt way different than Maybach Music. Maybach Music felt different than Young Money, right? Young Money felt different than Raider Clan. The internet back then rewarded identity, it rewarded scenes, it rewarded niche communities, and it rewarded experimentation. And for a while, that openness created one of the most distinct eras of the internet music culture. But eventually, like everything, the internet evolved again, and everybody was forced to play a new game. At a certain point, artists stopped just using the internet, and they started to actually create and build for the internet. And we can even look at artists like XXXTentacion as some of the earliest examples of this shift.
So this is like 2015, 16-ish area. I mean, when we stopped blogging on Bringing Down the Band, it was 2015. That's when, generally speaking, everybody else stopped blogging. Like the shift was happening at that point.
Because X understood something before a lot of artists did, and it was almost prophetic in a sense, right? The internet wasn't just a place to upload music anymore. It was becoming the entire ecosystem.
Do you remember when X said this? If we're talking about one of the first rappers to be tapped in with the streaming community, it gotta be X. In an era where it seems like rappers only get on stream to promote their music or get clout, X really did it from a place of being genuine. Not only was X watching streamers, but he would play games with them too. The moment where it seemed like rap and streaming collided is when he shouted out, "I'm Dante." Dante would go and react to this on stream, and it was a full circle moment. Before XXXTentacion passed away, he even started a YouTube channel for gaming and streaming. Allowing fans to know him on a more personal level, X would even post the gameplay.
This is not clickbait. The voice that you're hearing right now is the one and only legendary XXXTentacion.
That clip is really important historically because it shows the beginning of streaming culture. It shows the beginning of parasocial fandom, of artist to audience interactions, and of building out a native fan base. And it was at this point that artists stopped feeling so distant and so above our reach. And fans were showing that they wanted all of this, right? They were showing they wanted the access, they wanted the personality, they wanted the participation, and they liked the constant engagement. And to be real, that completely changed the relationship between artists and their audiences forever. But
I think there's one distinct thing in between here that he's missing, and maybe he'll touch on it. And it's the For You algorithm. And, you know, a lot of people attribute the For You algorithm to being, you know, like with TikTok. But before, I guess, the For You algorithm was the "you must pay us to reach your people" algorithm that Meta, Facebook, and Instagram instituted. And this was earlier. And this was like 2000. It was kind of right around that same period of time. It was like 16. This would have had to have been 2017. I spent a lot of time bringing down the band's Facebook page. And then after working on it for about a year, they switched the algorithm up. And, you know, I grew it from like 600 followers to over 4,000, which doesn't sound like a lot. But for me, doing it all organically, it was kind of, it felt like, hey, I was proud of it. You know what I mean? After about a year, our engagement went from a lot of people seeing the stuff to like, this has reached 12 people. Please spend $100 to reach another X amount of people. And I'm like, nope. And that's when I left the platform. And I think that was the introduction to the end. And that was the introduction to the For You page. Right around that same time is when streaming really started to kind of blow up as well.
The internet evolved again. And this is where things started to get weird because platforms stopped being neutral distribution tools and they became the gatekeepers. Algorithms started to decide what gets seen, what gets pushed, what gets buried, and what becomes viral and becomes the topic of conversation the very next day. And over time, artists started optimizing for algorithms and not necessarily for culture, which is why now you hear more artists openly talking about how they feel trapped by these same platforms.
Oh, hey man, I dropped a project on my birthday, May 12th. It's a project I've been working on for a while, and it's called This Is Not Normal. It's an instrumental project, and it's very thematic and all this stuff, you know, based around things that we normalize in the United States of America that we should. Blah, blah, blah. End of plug. Point being, I go look at Threads right now. Right. If I pull this up, and I go to my profile, and I don't know if you can see this, 224,000 recent views, right? If I go on here and I click on, like, I don't know, the last video, like a video that I made, that I uploaded, how many views does this have? 19 views. I put out a slot post of just me just like saying some random stuff. It goes viral or something, you know? But if it's like me actually pushing my music out there, the thing that I'm doing with no links, no external links or anything, just like a video that I made with my music, with some commentary about it, it doesn't push it. It's only pushing trending topics. It's only pushing stuff that it perceives that what people want to talk about. And if I don't have a massive fan base for the stuff that I do musically, because most of the time it's spent through education of it, right? And talking about it in this particular way, there's no way for me to reach people. The algorithm is killing creatives. It is the new gatekeeper.
She's just mad that she's flopping. Baby, there's actually no way to successfully promote an album where everyone knows your album is coming. I have an album coming out in 23 days, and I bet you nobody even knows that. The algorithm-based way that social media functions now is destroying the music industry.
Preach. I feel like Lizzo is 1,000% right half the time. Half the time she speaks.
Talking about the actual industry that allows artists to sell their music for profit. If your algorithm is super serving you things out of order of when they're happening, then the general public has no idea when music is actually coming out. I have had several occasions where there were artists whose music I was actually looking forward to, I completely missed because I didn't realize it was out. Back in the day, which was maybe even just 5 years ago, we used to get things chronologically.
Now, I just got to disagree with our queen Lizzo here on one thing. It was not 5 years ago that we had the chronological timeline. The For You page and the Explore tab have been For You and Exploring for pretty much the last 5 years or so. I will argue that she was a part of the era that kind of molded
it, and I think he's even right. I mean, it was before that. Facebook instituted it in like 2000 and either late 2017 or 2018 is when they first, it was before TikTok. That's when that thing kind of shifted and they switched all that stuff around. And then everybody followed suit from him. You know, like Twitter did. Twitter followed suit. Instagram followed suit. Then I don't remember where in that timeline that Instagram was bought by Facebook. Like, I don't remember. The TikTok For You is when everybody really specifically got focused on the For You page, because it's called the For You page, number one. But also, like, artists were actually seeing results from that. People were not with Twitter's For You page or Instagrams or Facebook's. But when TikToks came out, people were just kind of like, all right, well, I actually kind of like this a little bit, which is, I don't know.
A lot of younger artists are coming up today. The young artists of today saw artists like her and so many others coming up during the TikTok era, which was like peak virality season. And they all started going, I need to work to make that happen. And honestly, I think a lot of artists are feeling the pressure now that Lizzo is clearly feeling, because the modern internet is constantly demanding more, right? It wants more content, more engagement, more visibility.
And it wants to keep you on the platform.
And more frequency. And if the algorithm slows down, then your entire momentum can slow down right with it. And for a lot of artists, that's scary, knowing that their whole career could be in the hands of this algorithm, right? Scary. But this next part is what really started connecting the dots for me, because a lot of people think that these conversations are new. They think that the battle between the music industry and the internet ecosystem is something that really just started. But the music industry has actually been fighting this fight for years. So this letter you see on your screen is from the music industry exec Lear Cohen in the year of 2018. And back then, he wrote a public letter to the music industry talking about reaction channels, YouTube culture, and how the internet was reshaping music discovery. And honestly, looking back on it, it kind of feels really surreal, right? Because it showed that the industry was already starting to understand something important. The internet was no longer just supporting the music industry, it was becoming the music industry, right?
Yeah.
And so look at some of the things that he says in his letter, right? Right here, he's mid-conversation, and you should be. You brought up collaborations. By providing a global stage, I think YouTube has reinvented collaborations, whether it's between artists from different countries or genres or between artists and creators. It's such a fertile space and smart way to get your art in front of new audiences. And then here he says, music to my ears. This is so mission critical to protect this creative environment. You know that what's currently written in Article 13 might just shut down these remixes that we are talking about.
I don't even think YouTube was first with this. I think Twitch actually did a better job, but I think it's like based around infrastructure that I would like to see. That the infrastructural pieces are kind of cool. I don't feel like they work the way that they're supposed to, and I know this is not true. I have this channel that I'm releasing this video on, has almost 118,000 subscribers. I don't remember exactly, and the New Old Heads ones have 12,000. And there's no reason why we should be able to collaborate on a post and the video get like 200, 300, 400, 500 views. Like, that's not even 1% of the subscriber base of a niche fan base that came for hip hop content. So I feel like there's still a lot of problems within this. I have a lot of issues in relation to, like, I don't feel like these platforms prioritize subscribers and followers the way that they should. If I am going to somebody's page and clicking follow, that means that I want to see their stuff. If I'm clicking subscribe on something, I want to see their stuff. Otherwise, I will unsubscribe from that. I don't need somebody to try to tell me what I want to see. Just give it to me. Give it to me the way that I want. Let me scroll. Let me do that manual label of work. to cipher that out, siphon that out myself. And in return, you give me more autonomy and you give the creator more autonomy, because now like subscribers is legitimately and followers legitimately is a complete vanity metric that does not mean shit for a lot of creators. Doesn't mean anything. Like this video that I'm putting out that I feel like is high value, that is very high value for creatives and people of that nature, and somebody who I understand thumbnails and I understand titles and I understand SEO, and I've written, I've built 30 websites, you know what I mean? Like, and I've been in the web space and all this stuff. Like I understand this stuff, but it's like, for some reason, it just doesn't hit the right algorithm most of the time, unless it's like a really popular, talking point. And maybe that's in part how I built this particular channel, in the sense of like, it is a general hip hop fan as opposed to a very specific niche. But at the same time, this needs to hit my subscribers more. It needs to hit my subscriber base. And even if you go on the basis of like getting 1% of your people to click, which is low standard, it doesn't add up a lot of times. You know what I mean? Like even if people are going to click on it and hear and watch the first 10 seconds and be like, I don't care about this, and move on. Cool. At least people are like seeing it and making that determination. I wish that determination was made right there, and then they saw like the content I was doing and be like, you know what, actually no longer subscribed. I'm not interested in this particular type of content, And I think that's important. But the fact that subscribers don't even matter, it's just like it depowers creatives and musicians.
Mixes and covers, tutorials, fan tributes, parodies, these are all such powerful promotional tools for the industry. Don't get me wrong, I'm all in favor of protecting artists' rights and compensating them fairly. I've been fighting this fight for 38 years, but we should all realize that nurturing these kind of relationships with fans and creators is one of the best things that has happened to music. So what Leo was saying to the industry back then is that, hey, discovery has changed, marketing has changed, fan behavior has changed, and culture has changed. And rather than us incentivize policies or laws that could deter that, we need to embrace it. And we need to realize that it's a beautiful part of the artist growth process. And then we fast forward 7-8 years later, and those very things that he talked about have become integral to the modern music marketing campaigns of today. But now I think we're entering another shift, and that Instagram update is just a signifier of it. I think that platforms are about to start prioritizing originality. They're going to prioritize owned audiences, creator ecosystems, and direct fan relationships more than ever before. And once again, that's why this Instagram update matters so much. Because if repost pages lose reach, right, and let's just remove it from Instagram, right? Let's say the culture of reposting starts to kind of get attacked by...
I just want to know what the and maybe that's what he's going to get into, but if we're going to get rid of these aggregators, which I don't really follow any on Instagram, and I think generally speaking, a lot of times they are low quality, so I understand from a perspective, you do lose a little bit of like control, like of your product when you do that. And there's different mindsets around that, in the clip economy, if you will. Right. And I'm on both sides of it. I see both sides of it, but generally speaking, what is going to be the replacement for this clip economy? Because the clip economy of massively clipping all this stuff and all the things that are happening is what people do because the algorithm isn't allowing people to reach. Right. So what's the solution?
All platforms. Then that affects music seeding, that affects blog culture, that affects fan page strategies, that affects clipping strategies. It's basically affecting the whole modern day discovery pipeline for modern artists. And that's why I say that this update is bigger than just Instagram. I think the entire internet is moving away from distribution first growth, and it's slowly moving towards identity first growth. So what we're about to see is that...
I actually agree with that. I literally said this in that Black Milk segment from 486. I said it. I literally said this. I was like, I feel like the future is, maybe it's blog based. I don't think it's website based. I wish these platforms had the potential for people to blog, and I would love the ability to somehow share somebody's post and not for everything to be for the love. You know what I mean? And I would love for somebody to be able to share my stuff. And I feel like that's where collaborations come in. Like, let's say No Labels Necessary is an aggregator. They're not, but let's say they are. And I drop music, and let's say I give it to them. And with my channel and their channel, we can do a collaboration post, right? And let's say we can also dictate how through splits, in the same way that music distribution works. We can operate splits within that. But like, hey, you're going to get X percentage of this, and you're going to get percentage of this right there. It's automatically sent to individual accounts, bank accounts. Boom, collaboration is great. And I feel like YouTube is slowly introducing some of this stuff because collaborations are a thing now. But I do feel like that this is the direction that we need to be going if we want collaborations to be equitable, right? And we have to put some sort of value on the people that are amplifying. We have to give those people, maybe we can keep the original video on the main person's page and we can just collaborate with multiple people. That would be awesome. How about I make this video here, and it's because I'm reacting to this fella, and no labels necessary, because I'm reacting to it, maybe we can have a collaboration deal to where like I pay them a percentage of what I'm reacting to. I'm okay with that. I think that's fine. That's what I'm deriving from. I would love to be able to listen to somebody's music and pay them a portion of it and be able to also retain a little bit because I'm reacting to it and I'm adding my original context, and that's technically under fair use, right? But the way that the system is set up and the way that the copyright laws are and the way that the music industry operates doesn't really work like that. So I feel like the issue, like all the stuff that's moving around, like the problem is the infrastructure to me. Number one, people aren't going to blogs anymore. People aren't doing that shit. We talked about that on the segment from episode 486. People aren't going to blogs, so what's the solution, And I feel like it is very much creator-centric, like, let me be this creator over here. Let me listen to somebody's music. Let me give them a little bit of money for this, but let me also retain some, let me eat. Let me live out here. And I'm, I may be biased from this perspective because I was a hip-hop blogger for myself and Jay Diff and some of my friends for 5 years for the love. We had 12,000 posts of promoting hip hop music. We didn't get paid at all. We did that because we felt it was necessary. And that's not the way that it should be, And, so I'm going to advocate for people that are doing the labor, like doing the work. And sure, there's intellectual property that also needs to be compensated for. But I feel like, man, we have AI. Why do we not have these type of systems built already? I don't know.
The artists who survive this next era of online probably won't be the artists who have distribution figured out, or even artists who have figured out how to maximize the distribution pipelines that have been working for the last 7-8 years or so. It'll be the artists who build real communities, the artists who build recognizable identities, original ecosystems, and nurture that direct audience relationship. Those are going to be the ones that break through and stick. And we're already seeing it, right? We're already seeing it within the batch of artists that are blowing up.
And also we see it in hip hop media and things of that nature. Like, it's important to be this is probably one of the biggest, I mention this all the time. This is one of the mistakes I made with bringing down the band to begin with. You're seeing my face on here talking to the camera now, but for the first 14 years, I didn't put my face in front of a camera. I didn't want to be in front of the camera. I wanted it to be an aggregator. I wanted it to push other people's things first. And it wasn't until later down the line to where I realized it's like, man, and I saw myself in other people and I was like, why did they succeed more? And I'm like, well, it's because people could assign people's names to that. And I didn't want to do it because I was an artist, and I didn't want to conflate the two, you know what I mean? But realistically, and don't get me wrong, I still believe that there's value and merit there. And, I still strongly like that idea. But, it's one of the main reasons I'm sitting in front of a camera talking to you now is because I feel like it's important to connect the face with the thing. And so that's why if you're in the comments, I'm going to reply to you. And that's why we're having this discourse, and things of that nature. And yes, artists need to create this as well. Every artist needs a YouTube page and a Bandcamp page first. They need those things first. Then you can go get distribution and everything else. But I don't even necessarily think that, a lot of times when you're a creative person, it's like we have to be reactive, and we have to react to the next thing that's happened, that's changing, that's forcing us to react so that we can just exist and live, right? And I feel like if the artist is, or the creative person in general, which is also an artist, but if they are creating their local, small little community, if they're building their own world, then we can be less reliant on the changes that are happening. Like if I have direct access, I have 118,000 subscribers. I really wish I had access to. That's why email lists are important. That's why Patreon stuff is important, because you have direct access to it. Thank you for becoming a member if you're a member of this, but I would much rather you go be a Patreon member than a subscriber on this channel. You know what I mean? Sure, there's money there, but be a free member, because then you get access to the stuff that's happening. You know what I mean? And the thing is like a lot of times from a creative standpoint, we talk about the struggles that we have in this or struggles that creators have and that they have to overcome. But one thing that maybe I think would be prudent to talk about even further or think about even further is like, how does that look like from a consumer standpoint? Because me as a consumer, do I really want to be subscribed to 19 different Patreons? You know, probably not. You know what I mean? And so I think there has to be like an intermediary, you know, like we're already ambushed so much by so many things. I feel like for the people that don't want to be subscribed to 19 different Patreons, if they could be subscribed to one blog that shares all the stuff that they want, then that kind of fixes that. You know what I mean? And then the super fans, if you will, can go be that. And the people that aren't super fans can just, you know, catch it in passing in a place that allows them to consume the media without overwhelming them or overwhelming us, you know? And I feel like that's another reason why aggregators or blogs or things like that are important, is because there's just so much. There's so much, man. And a lot of the stuff I don't care about. I don't care about every single video that every person that I follow puts out. I just don't. You know what I mean? And I think that's just the nature of it. And I think there's a human level of this that needs to be factored in. So anyways.
A lot of these newer artists, they're streamers, they're vloggers, they're media brands, they're really full-on personalities. And they have figured out that the internet no longer just rewards music, it rewards attention ecosystems. And honestly, I think we're still early. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're really just getting started. And this next generation of artists is probably not gonna just be releasing songs. They'll build worlds, they'll build real communities, they will build their media ecosystems, they're gonna be live streaming,
And I think that's a gift and a curse for the artist, because most artists that I know that are actually artists, especially if they're introverted by nature, they just want to make their art, man. And when the world looks like it does in this particular capitalist environment that we live in, you know, artists have to be multiple things. And I don't know if, well, actually I do know a lot of the dope artists I know that a lot of them don't want their lives out there like that. You know, a lot of them want, you know, or they're working jobs, or they got families, or they got things that they got to do. They don't want to be live streamers. They don't want to be YouTubers. They don't want to be this. They don't want to do a lot of the things that are kind of required to make it to that next level. And I feel like what's going to happen, which has already been happening, is, and it's this thing happens through the recurrence of time, is the people that are going to shine are the people that have the time to be able to keep up with the thing that is necessary and are going to be able to beat it to death. The people that are going to be able to be live streamers, going to be able to make videos all the time, be able to make content all the time, those are the artists that are going to be successful, as opposed to the artists that are just good at what they do. I fundamentally have a problem with that. And I feel like blogs and aggregators play a nice little middleman in that, you know. And again, I just wish that there was I wish this was just better, you know.
Be doing in real life shows. They will have lore, they will have inside jokes, they will have a whole fan universe. And ironically, that shift might just bring the internet full circle. Because if we look back, the blog era rewarded artists who felt unique. And now, after years of algorithm chasing, the platforms may be shifting back towards rewarding originality again. But this time is going to be in a completely different format that we'll just all have to figure out in real time. So honestly, I don't think that this Instagram update is just a random platform change. I think it's a signal that the internet itself is evolving again. And the artists who adapt early are probably gonna dominate the next era of music internet culture. But I'm curious, do y'all think that the internet is becoming better for artists, or are these algorithms slowly making it harder for artists to sustain creativity?
The latter, unfortunately. Shouts to No Labels Necessary. This is a really great video. Definitely appreciate this insight. I feel like it's a necessity to be on here. I feel like there are highlights every once in a while. I see something introduced and I'll be like, all right, that's going in the right direction, but it still hasn't actualized. And a lot of it is still rooted in what's going to make the company the most money. And that's not always necessarily what's best for the art. Actually, it's very rarely what's best for the art and the artist. So I don't know. I've already spoken on this quite a bit already. I think I've kind of said my two cents. So thanks for watching. I'm Sean, Lonegevity with Bringing Down the Band in the New Old Heads podcast. This is my Unpacked series. Again, thank you for subscribing. If you are subscribed, hit the bell, turn on notifications. Every time you see me drop a video, come in and throw up a thumbs up. Say, hey, what's up, Sean? Do those things. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'll catch you next time. Peace.